those Americans who believed their cause was just, who believed that God favored their resistance to the tyranny they believed of George III, drew on earlier arguments going back to the Reformation and some of those struggles between Protestants and Catholics. And the argument went something like this. Yes, God has ordained government and God has ordained civil magistrate, but he has ordained them to serve the public good. And if a civil magistrate ceases to serve the public good, that civil magistrate, in essence, deposes himself, abdicates their power, and therefore is no longer due the obedience of his subjects, of the citizens underneath him. And so Americans argued in defense of their right of resistance that King George III had ceased to serve the public good. He had become a tyrant, and as a tyrant, he had deposed himself. You remember the language in the Declaration that speaks of George having abdicated, right? He's deposed himself and is no longer due the obedience of his American subjects. And so Americans saw their behavior in that sense as not being in violation of the instructions of Romans 13. And an interesting encapsulation of this argument is in a phrase that was embraced by both Franklin and Jefferson, a phrase that says, "Rebellion to tyrants is obedience to God." On July 4th, 1776, we remember, of course, the Declaration of Independence. But later on that same day, the Continental Congress appointed a committee of 3 men to design a great seal for the United States. And the 3 men were Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, and John Adams. And they went away and they deliberated a design for the Great Seal. And Franklin and Jefferson signed on to this idea that they would depict Moses standing on the banks of the Red Sea with arm extended. Again, at the end of that dramatic moment, bringing down the walls of water and destroying Pharaoh's army. It's a story about liberty and liberation. And they thought that this was a fitting scene to depict on the great seal of this new nation, the United States. But what's interesting is they proposed that a motto be attached to that great seal. And what was it? Rebellion to tyrants is obedience to God. A profoundly theological idea. In fact, Jefferson went so far as to make it a personal motto for himself, and he included it in a seal that he made with his own initials on it. But I think it captures in a vivid way this difficult discussion. When, if ever, can Christians resist their civil rulers? When does God favor such resistance? Again, captured in this idea, rebellion to tyrants is obedience to God.